The owner of a failed restaurant let a homeless man and his daughter stay in the building. As the New York skyline sparkled in the evening light, Ryan Matthews stood by the window of his penthouse office, a glass of scotch in hand. At 32, he was the picture of success, young, handsome, and incredibly wealthy. His tech company, Innovision, had transformed how people interacted with artificial intelligence, making him a billionaire before he turned 30. Yet, as he looked out at the bustling city below, Ryan felt a void that no amount of money could fill. Born into a middle-class family in a small Midwestern town, Ryan had always dreamed big. His parents and older siblings often chuckled at his ambitions. "The Matthews family has never been rich," his father would say. "We work hard, but we don't get rich quick." But Ryan was determined to prove them wrong. From a young age, he threw himself into his studies, often staying up late to learn beyond what school taught. His dedication surprised his parents, who were stunned when he announced his plans to apply to MIT. "Are you serious, Ryan? Do you think you can handle it?" his mother had asked nervously. "I have no doubt I'll succeed," Ryan replied confidently. And succeed he did. At MIT, Ryan excelled in tech competitions and startups. He wasn't afraid to approach visiting entrepreneurs, asking questions and gaining valuable insights. Many were impressed by his ambition and offered him jobs after graduation. But Ryan had other plans. After finishing school, he took a risk and started his own company, investing all his savings into developing an AI platform that would revolutionize personal computing. The gamble paid off, and within a few years, Innovision was a leader in the tech industry. Now, standing in his office, Ryan reflected on his journey. He had achieved everything he'd ever wanted, but something was missing. The loneliness of his success weighed on him. Shaking off the melancholy, he decided to grab dinner at a small restaurant near his office. As he walked into the cozy spot, he was struck by the warm atmosphere, soft lighting, paintings on the walls, and the smell of freshly brewed coffee. A young waitress approached his table, a beautiful woman with big brown eyes and a friendly smile. Her name tag read Mia. "Good evening," she greeted warmly. "Have you decided what to order?" Ryan felt his heart skip a beat. There was something about Mia that intrigued him. A spark of intelligence in her eyes, a grace in her movements that seemed out of place. "Good evening, Mia," he replied, surprised by the slight tremor in his voice. "I'd like a cappuccino. What do you recommend for dinner?" Mia's eyes lit up. "Our chef's special tonight is a seafood pasta. It's amazing. Would you like to try it?" Ryan nodded, captivated by her enthusiasm. As Mia walked away, he couldn't help but wonder about her story. She seemed too refined, too intelligent to be just a waitress. There was a mystery there, and Ryan found himself eager to uncover it. When Mia returned with his order, Ryan took a chance. "I hope you don't mind me asking, but you seem to have a passion for food. Are you studying culinary arts?" A shadow crossed Mia's face, quickly replaced by a polite smile. "No, actually I'm between careers right now. This job helps pay the bills while I figure things out." Ryan sensed there was more to her story but didn't press. Instead, he steered the conversation toward lighter topics. To his delight, Mia was well-versed in everything from literature to current events. Their brief chat left Ryan wanting to know more about this intriguing woman. As he was leaving, Ryan took a deep breath and decided to take a risk. "Mia, I know this might seem forward, but would you like to grab coffee sometime? Just to talk more about books or anything else you're interested in?" Mia hesitated, surprise flickering in her eyes. Then she nodded. "That would be nice, actually. Thank you." They exchanged numbers, and as Ryan left the restaurant, he felt an excitement he hadn't experienced in years. There was something special about Mia, and he was determined to get to know her better. Little did Ryan know, his life was about to become intertwined with two other individuals who would play crucial roles in the drama ahead. Alex Thompson, Ryan's best friend since MIT and now his business partner at Innovision, was brilliant, charismatic, and fiercely ambitious. He had always supported Ryan through late-night coding sessions and nerve-wracking investor pitches, but beneath his loyal exterior, Alex harbored growing resentment. He believed he deserved more credit for Innovision's success, and the idea of Ryan being distracted by a new romance didn't sit well with him. When Ryan excitedly told him about meeting Mia, Alex's smile didn't reach his eyes. "A waitress, huh?" he said, a hint of disdain in his voice. "Just be careful, Ryan. Not everyone has pure intentions when it comes to successful men like us." Ryan brushed off the comment, but Alex's words planted a small seed of doubt. Meanwhile, across town in a small Brooklyn apartment, Mia was excitedly telling her best friend, Sophia, about her encounter with Ryan. Sophia, a sharp-witted journalist with a protective streak, listened with growing concern. "Mia, honey, I know you're excited, but please be careful. Men like that, rich, powerful, they're used to getting what they want. I don't want to see you get hurt again." Mia's smile faltered. "He's not like that, Sophia. He seemed genuinely interested in me, not just you know." Sophia sighed, squeezing Mia's hand. "I hope you're right. Just promise me you'll take it slow, okay? Remember why you came to New York in the first place. Don't let a charming smile derail your plans." As Mia nodded, her mind drifted back to the life she'd left behind in California. The wealth, the privilege, and the painful fall from grace that had brought her to this small apartment in New York. She had worked hard to rebuild her life, to find herself beyond the shadow of her family's name. Was she ready to risk it all for a chance at love? Little did any of them know. The forces set in motion that evening would lead them down a path of love, betrayal, and redemption, testing the limits of their hearts and the strength of their character. One early morning, as the sun cast a warm glow over Central Park, Ryan and Mia strolled along a winding path, paper coffee cups in hand. It was their third date, and Ryan found himself more captivated by Mia with each passing moment. "So, you never told me," Mia said with a playful smile. "What does the CEO of a tech company do for fun?" "Besides taking waitresses on walks through the park, of course." Ryan chuckled, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the coffee. "Honestly, this is probably the most fun I've had in years. Running a company doesn't leave much time for living well." Mia's eyes softened. "That sounds lonely." "It was," Ryan admitted, surprising himself with his honesty. "But not anymore." As they walked, Ryan opened up about his childhood dreams, his struggles at MIT, and the sleepless nights spent building Innovision from the ground up. Mia listened intently, asking insightful questions that revealed a deep understanding of the business world, something that both intrigued and puzzled Ryan. "You seem to know a lot about corporate structures for someone who's between careers," he observed, his curiosity piqued. A flicker of discomfort crossed Mia's face before she laughed it off. "Oh, you pick up all sorts of things waiting tables in New York. You wouldn't believe the conversations I overhear." Ryan sensed there was more to the story, but decided not to push. Instead, he steered the conversation toward Mia's interests, delighting in her passionate descriptions of the books she loved and the places she dreamed of visiting. As weeks turned into months, Ryan and Mia's relationship deepened. They explored hidden corners of New York together, from quaint bookshops in the Village to avant-garde art galleries in Chelsea. Ryan found himself laughing more than he had in years, while Mia's eyes sparkled with a joy she thought she'd lost forever. But beneath the surface of their growing romance, both Ryan and Mia wrestled with their secrets and fears. For Ryan, the mounting pressure at Innovision weighed heavily. The company faced fierce competition, and investors demanded higher returns. He worked late into the night, torn between guilt over neglecting Mia and his determination to protect the company he had built. One evening, as Ryan buried himself in financial reports, Alex walked into his office, his expression serious. "Ryan, we need to talk," Alex said, his tone uncharacteristically grave. "It's about Mia." Ryan looked up, a mix of confusion and defensiveness flashing across his face. "What about her?" Alex sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Look, I've been doing some digging. Something doesn't add up about her story. A waitress who knows corporate law and finance, who somehow wears designer clothes on a minimum wage salary. I'm worried she might not be who she says she is. Ryan's anger flared. You've been investigating my girlfriend? Alex, that's crossing a line. I'm just looking out for you, Alex insisted. And for the company. We can't afford distractions or potential scandals right now. You need to be careful. As Alex left, Ryan leaned back in his chair, doubt creeping into his mind. He trusted Mia, didn't he? But why did she always avoid talking about her past? Meanwhile, across town, Mia sat in a coffee shop with her best friend, Sophia. Mia, I'm worried about you, Sophia said, stirring her latte. You're falling hard for Ryan, but you're still keeping secrets. How long do you think you can keep this up? Mia flinched. It's not like that, sophomore. I'm not lying to him. I'm just leaving out certain parts of my past. They don't matter anymore. Sophia leaned forward, her gaze intense. But they do matter, Mia. Your past shaped who you are. What happens when Ryan finds out? Do you think a man like him won't eventually uncover the truth? Mia's shoulders slumped. I know. But when I'm with Ryan, I feel like I can be myself. The real me, not the person I was forced to be in California. I don't want to lose that. Sophia softened, reaching for Mia's hand. I get it, but if you really care about him, you need to be honest. Before it's too late. As Mia nodded, her phone buzzed with a text from Ryan, asking if she was free that evening. A smile spread across her face, but it was tinged with unease. That night, Ryan took Mia to a rooftop restaurant with a stunning view of the city. As they sipped champagne and watched the sunset, both felt the weight of their unspoken truths. Mia, Ryan began hesitantly, I need to ask you something. Mia's heart raced. Was this it? Had he discovered her secret? I've been working late a lot recently, Ryan continued, oblivious to her panic. The company's going through some challenges, and I feel like I'm neglecting you. I just need to know if you're okay with this. If you understand. Relief washed over Mia, followed by guilt. Here was Ryan, opening up to her, while she still held back. Of course I understand, she said softly, taking his hand. Your work is important to you. It's part of who you are. I'd never ask you to choose between your dreams and us. Ryan's eyes shone with emotion. You're incredible, you know that? Sometimes I wonder what I did to deserve you. The words struck Mia like a blow. If only he knew the truth about her family, about the life she left behind. Would he still look at her with such adoration? As they left the restaurant hand in hand, both Ryan and Mia were lost in thought. They had navigated this small hurdle, but bigger challenges loomed, ones that would test the foundation of their relationship. The following weeks were a whirlwind. Ryan threw himself into work, determined to steer Innovision through its rough patch. Inspired by his dedication, Mia enrolled in business classes at a local community college, reigniting her passion for finance, a passion she had buried after her family's downfall. Their time together became scarce but precious. They spoke of the future, of dreams they dared to share. Ryan imagined a life beyond corporate success, while Mia dared to hope for a love that would accept all of her, past and present. But as their relationship deepened, so did the pressures. Alex's suspicions about Mia grew, and he subtly undermined her in conversations with Ryan. I just find it odd, he would say casually, how she never talks about her family or her life before New York. Don't you think that's strange? Sophia, too, continued to push Mia toward honesty. You're building a relationship on quicksand, she warned. The longer you wait to tell him the truth, the harder it's going to be. The strain began to show. Conversations between Ryan and Mia, once effortless, now carried undercurrents of tension. Unasked questions and unspoken truths hovered between them, threatening their fragile happiness. Everything came to a head one rainy evening in Ryan's penthouse. They had planned a quiet night in, a rare chance to reconnect. But as they sat on the couch, the city lights twinkling beyond the windows. The weight of their secrets became unbearable. "Mia," Ryan said suddenly, his voice tight with emotion, "I need you to be honest with me. Who are you really?" Mia froze, her wine glass halfway to her lips. "What do you mean?" she whispered. Ryan ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. "I mean, I feel like I know your heart, your mind, your dreams. But there's so much about your life that's a mystery. Where did you come from? Why are you really in New York? Sometimes I feel like I'm dating a ghost." Tears welled in Mia's eyes. This was the moment she had dreaded, the moment that could shatter everything. But as she looked at Ryan, seeing the love and hurt in his eyes, she knew she couldn't keep lying. "Ryan," she began, her voice shaking, "there's something I need to tell you about my past, about who I really am." As Mia began to unravel the carefully constructed narrative of her life, neither she nor Ryan realized that this moment of truth would set off a chain of events that would test their love in ways they could never have imagined. The storm on the horizon was about to break, and in its wake, nothing would ever be the same. The early morning mist hung low over Central Park as a red-hot air balloon ascended into the pale blue sky. Inside the wicker basket, Ryan's heart raced, not from the altitude, but from the small velvet box in his pocket. Beside him, Mia gasped in wonder as the sprawling cityscape unfolded beneath them. "Ryan, this is incredible," Mia exclaimed, her eyes wide with excitement. "I've always dreamed of seeing the city like this." Ryan smiled, drinking in her joy. It had been 3 months since that rainy night when Mia had finally opened up about her past. The revelation that she was the daughter of a once prominent Silicon Valley mogul who had lost everything in a spectacular fall from grace. At first, Ryan had been shocked, but as Mia shared her story, the pain, the humiliation, and her journey to reinvent herself, he found himself falling even deeper in love with her strength and resilience. As the balloon drifted over the glittering skyscrapers, Ryan knew it was time. He took a deep breath and turned to Mia, taking her hands in his. "Mia," he began, his voice thick with emotion, "these past months with you have been the happiest of my life. You've shown me that there's more to life than success and ambition. You've taught me the value of perseverance, of starting over, of being true to oneself." Tears glistened in Mia's eyes as Ryan slowly lowered himself to one knee, the basket swaying gently beneath them. "I love you, Mia. All of you, your past, your present, and I want to be part of your future. Will you marry me?" As he opened the velvet box, revealing a stunning pink diamond ring, Mia's hand flew to her mouth, a soft gasp escaping her lips. "Yes," she whispered, then louder. "Yes, Ryan, yes." As he slipped the ring onto her finger and pulled her into a passionate kiss, the sun broke through the morning mist, bathing them in golden light. For a moment, they were suspended in perfect happiness, high above the world and its complications. But as they descended back to Earth, reality began to creep in. The news of their engagement spread quickly, eliciting a range of reactions from their friends and families. Sophia was the first to congratulate Mia, wrapping her in a tight hug. "I'm so happy for you," she said, though Mia didn't miss the flicker of concern in her friend's eyes. "You're sure about this, right? You've told him everything." Mia nodded, twisting the new ring on her finger. "He knows everything, Soph, and he still wants me. Can you believe it?" Sophia smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Just be careful, okay? Fairy tales are nice, but real life is complicated." Ryan's parents, initially skeptical of their son's whirlwind romance, were won over by Mia's charm and sincerity during a weekend visit to their Midwest home. His mother hugged Mia tightly, whispering, "Welcome to the family, dear. It's about time someone made an honest man out of our Ryan." The reaction at Innovision, however, was decidedly mixed. While most employees were happy for their boss, Alex's congratulations seemed forced, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. "Marriage is a big step, Ryan," Alex said as they reviewed quarterly reports. "Are you sure you're ready for this? The company needs you focused now more than ever." Ryan bristled at his friend's tone. I've never been more sure of anything in my life, Alex. Mia makes me better, both as a person and as a leader. You should be happy for me." Alex held up his hands in surrender, but Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that his oldest friend didn't share in his joy. As wedding preparations began in earnest, the stress began to mount. Mia, determined to prove herself worthy of Ryan's world, threw herself into planning a lavish affair that would impress New York's elite. She spent hours poring over wedding magazines, consulting with high-end planners and visiting exclusive venues. Ryan, caught between the demands of his company and Mia's increasing anxiety over the wedding, found himself stretched thin. Late nights at the office were followed by weekends filled with cake tastings, suit fittings, and negotiations with florists. One evening, as they sat surrounded by seating charts and color swatches, Ryan noticed the dark circles under Mia's eyes. "Hey," he said softly, taking her hand. "Are you okay? You seem overwhelmed." Mia forced a smile that came out more like a grimace. "I'm fine. I just want everything to be perfect. Your friends, your business associates, they're all going to be there. I don't want to embarrass you." Ryan's heart clenched at the insecurity in her voice. "Mia, look at me," he said, tilting her chin up gently. "You could never embarrass me. I'm marrying you, not the wedding. If you want, we could elope tomorrow, and I'd be the happiest man alive." For a moment, Mia's eyes lit up at the idea, but then she shook her head. "No, we've come this far. I can do this. I want to do this for us." As the wedding day approached, the pressure continued to build. Mia's parents, still struggling financially, were hesitant about attending an event that would showcase the wealth they had lost. It took all of Mia's persuasion and a gentle nudge from Ryan to convince them to come. Meanwhile, Ryan was grappling with a crisis at Innovision. A major project was behind schedule, and investors were getting nervous. He found himself working longer hours, guilty about the time away from Mia, but determined not to let his company falter on the eve of his wedding. It was during one of these late nights at the office that Alex made his move. He found Ryan slumped over his desk, exhausted and stressed. "Ryan, we need to talk," Alex said, his voice uncharacteristically serious. "It's about the company and Mia." Ryan looked up, a mixture of confusion and weariness on his face. "What about them?" Alex took a deep breath, as if steeling himself. "The company is in trouble, Ryan. More trouble than you know. We're on the verge of losing our biggest investor, and if that happens," he let the sentence hang, the implication clear. Ryan felt the blood drain from his face. "Why am I just hearing about this now? And what does this have to do with Mia?" Alex's expression was a mask of concern. "I've been trying to handle it, to spare you the worry with the wedding coming up, but I can't hide it anymore. And Mia, Ryan, I'm worried that she might be part of the problem." "What are you talking about?" Ryan demanded, anger rising in his voice. "Think about it," Alex pressed on. "She shows up out of nowhere with a mysterious past and connections to Silicon Valley. She gets close to you, and suddenly our company starts having problems. It's too much of a coincidence." Ryan stood up abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. "You're out of line, Alex. Mia has nothing to do with this. She loves me." Alex held up his hands placatingly. "I hope I'm wrong, Ryan. I really do. But as your friend and your business partner, I had to say something. Just be careful, okay?" As Alex left the office, Ryan sank back into his chair, his mind reeling. He trusted Mia, didn't he? She had opened up to him about her past, but a small seed of doubt had been planted, and as the wedding day loomed ever closer, it began to take root. The night before the wedding, as Ryan lay sleepless in his penthouse, staring at the city lights beyond his window, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was standing on the precipice of something momentous. Tomorrow, he would make Mia his wife, joining their lives and their futures. But as the first light of dawn began to break over the New York skyline, Ryan found himself wondering if he truly knew the woman he was about to marry, and what secrets might still lie hidden beneath the surface of their seemingly perfect love. The morning of the wedding dawned clear and bright, the sun casting a golden glow over the sprawling Hamptons estate where Ryan and Mia were to be married. The manicured lawns were a hive of activity as florists, caterers, and event staff scurried about, putting the finishing touches on what promised to be the society event of the year. In a luxurious suite overlooking the ocean, Mia stood before a full-length mirror, barely recognizing the woman staring back at her. Her wedding gown, a masterpiece of silk and lace, hugged her curves before flowing out into a magnificent train. Diamond earrings, a gift from Ryan, sparkled at her ears. "You look like a princess," Sophia said softly, appearing behind Mia in the mirror. Mia attempted a smile, but it came out more like a grimace. "I feel like an imposter," she whispered. Sophia squeezed her friend's shoulders. "Hey, none of that. You deserve this, Mia. You've been honest with Ryan about everything. Today is about celebrating your love, remember?" Mia nodded, taking a deep breath to steady her nerves. But as she looked at her reflection, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to go terribly wrong. Meanwhile, in another part of the estate, Ryan was adjusting his bow tie, his hands shaking slightly. Alex lounged on a nearby sofa, watching his friend with a mixture of concern and something darker, unreadable. "It's not too late to back out, you know," Alex said, his tone casual but his eyes sharp. Ryan shot him a glare. "I'm not backing out, Alex. I love Mia. Why can't you just be happy for me?" Alex held up his hands in surrender. "I am happy for you. I just want to make sure you've thought this through. Marriage is a big step, especially with everything going on at the company." Before Ryan could respond, there was a knock at the door. "Mr. Matthews, it's time," a voice called. Ryan took a deep breath, squaring his shoulders. "This is it," he said, more to himself than to Alex. As he walked out of the room, he missed a look of determination that flashed across his friend's face. The ceremony was a lavish affair, with hundreds of guests filling the elegant outdoor pavilion. As Wagner's bridal chorus began to play, all eyes turned to the end of the aisle. Mia appeared, a vision in white, on the arm of her father. As she began her walk toward Ryan, murmurs of appreciation rippled through the crowd. Ryan felt his breath catch in his throat as he watched her approach. She was breathtakingly beautiful, but it was a love shining in her eyes that truly captivated him. In that moment, all his doubts and fears melted away. This was right. This was meant to be. As Mia reached the altar, her father placed her hand in Ryan's, giving him a nod of approval. The couple turned to face the officiant, ready to begin their new life together. The ceremony proceeded smoothly, with Ryan and Mia exchanging heartfelt vows that left many guests discreetly wiping away tears. When they were pronounced husband and wife, the crowd erupted in applause. Ryan pulled Mia in for a passionate kiss, feeling as though his heart might burst with happiness. But as they turned to face their guests, Ryan felt Mia stiffen beside him. Following her gaze, he saw an older couple making their way toward them, their faces a mixture of joy and apprehension. "Mom? Dad?" Mia's voice was barely a whisper. Ryan looked at her in confusion. "Mia, what's wrong? Aren't you happy to see them?" Before Mia could respond, her parents reached them. Her mother pulled her into a tight embrace, while her father stood awkwardly, his eyes darting between Mia and Ryan. "We're so proud of you, sweetheart," Mia's mother said, her voice thick with emotion. Mia's father cleared his throat. "You look beautiful, Mia," he said, then turned to Ryan, extending his hand. "And you must be the young man who's stolen our daughter's heart." As Ryan shook his hand, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The way Mia's father was looking at him, it was almost as if he recognized him. Suddenly, a commotion near the back of the crowd caught everyone's attention. Alex was making his way toward them, his face set in grim determination. "Ryan," he called out, his voice carrying across the now silent gathering. "There's something you need to know, something about Mia and her family." Mia's face drained of color. Alex, please, she begged. Not here, not now. But Alex was undeterred. I'm sorry, Mia, but Ryan deserves to know the truth about who you really are and what your family did to his company. A collective gasp went up from the guests. Ryan looked between Alex and Mia, confusion and dread battling for dominance in his mind. What is he talking about, Mia? Ryan asked, his voice low and strained. Mia closed her eyes, a single tear rolling down her cheek. When she opened them again, the look of defeat in her eyes made Ryan's heart clench. I'm so sorry, Ryan, she began, her voice trembling. I thought I'd left this all behind me, but I guess the past always catches up eventually. Taking a deep breath, Mia turned to address the stunned crowd. Many of you are probably wondering who I am. The truth is, my name isn't just Mia Ramirez. It's Mia Ramirez Castellanos. Another gasp rippled through the audience. Ryan felt as though the ground was shifting beneath his feet. The Castellanos name was infamous in the tech world, a cautionary tale of hubris and spectacular downfall. Mia continued, her voice growing stronger as she spoke. Yes, the Castellanos. My father, Eduardo Castellanos, was once one of the most powerful men in Silicon Valley. Our family had everything: money, power, influence. But we lost it all when my father's company, Casteltech, went bankrupt. She turned back to Ryan, her eyes pleading for understanding. What Alex didn't tell you is that it was your company, Innovision, that delivered the final blow to Casteltech. Your innovative AI platform made our technology obsolete overnight. Ryan staggered back, his mind reeling. But why didn't you tell me? All those times we talked about our past, our dreams. Because I was ashamed, Mia cried out. I wanted to leave that part of my life behind. When I met you, I had no idea who you were. By the time I figured it out, I was already falling in love with you. I was afraid if you knew the truth, you'd reject me. The crowd had fallen into shocked silence, all eyes on the drama unfolding before them. Alex stood to the side, a mix of triumph and concern on his face. Ryan's parents rushed forward, his mother's face a mask of confusion and hurt. Ryan, honey, what's going on? Who is this girl, really? But Ryan barely heard her. His eyes were locked on Mia, searching her face for any sign of the woman he thought he knew. Was any of it real? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Or was this all some elaborate plan for revenge? Mia reached out to him, her eyes brimming with tears. Ryan, no. I love you. Everything between us was real. Yes, I kept the truth about my family from you, but my feelings for you were never a lie. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. Ryan stood frozen, torn between the love he felt for Mia and the betrayal of her deception. In the background, guests whispered furiously. Cameras flashed as paparazzi who had somehow snuck in captured the unfolding scandal. Mia's parents stood in shocked silence, the ghosts of their past finally catching up with them. Then, without a word, Ryan turned and walked away, leaving Mia standing alone at the altar, her dream of a new life crumbling around her. The aftermath was chaos. Guests began to leave in droves, their excited chatter now replaced with scandalized whispers. Mia's parents tried to approach her, but she waved them away, sinking to her knees in the grass, her pristine white gown pooling around her. Sophia rushed to her friend's side, wrapping her arms around Mia's shaking form. "Oh, Mia," she murmured. "I'm so sorry. We'll figure this out, I promise." Alex attempted to follow Ryan, but was stopped by a furious Mrs. Matthews. "Haven't you done enough?" she hissed. "Leave my son alone." As the sun began to set over the Hamptons estate, casting long shadows over the abandoned wedding decorations, the full weight of the day's events began to settle in. Ryan had sequestered himself in his suite, ignoring the pleas of his parents and friends to come out. Mia, still in her wedding dress, sat on the beach, staring out at the darkening horizon, wondering how her happiest day had turned into her worst nightmare. In the coming days, The story of the billionaire tech mogul and the fallen Silicon Valley princess would dominate headlines and social media. But for Ryan and Mia, the world had narrowed to a pinpoint of pain and betrayal. Their future together now is uncertain as the shifting sands beneath their feet. As night fell on what should have been their wedding night, both Ryan and Mia lay awake in separate rooms, replaying the day's events in their minds. They had started the day on the verge of a new life together, full of hope and love. Now they faced a future filled with uncertainty, their trust shattered and their hearts broken. The question that haunted them both as they drifted into uneasy sleep was, could their love survive this ultimate test, or had the weight of the past finally crushed their dreams of a future together? The weeks following the ill-fated wedding passed in a blur of pain and confusion for both Ryan and Mia. The media frenzy that erupted in the wake of the scandal was relentless, with paparazzi camping outside their respective residences and wild speculation running rampant across social media platforms. Ryan threw himself into his work with a fervor that bordered on obsession. He practically lived at the Innovision offices, working long into the night, his eyes red-rimmed and his appearance increasingly disheveled. The company, already facing challenges before the wedding debacle, was now in full-blown crisis mode. One particularly grueling evening, as Ryan pored over financial reports that seemed to grow more dire by the day, Alex appeared in his office doorway. "Ryan, you need to see this," Alex said, his voice uncharacteristically gentle as he handed over a tablet. Ryan's eyes widened as he scrolled through the latest projections. Innovision stock had plummeted in the wake of the scandal, and now their biggest investor was threatening to pull out. "This can't be happening," Ryan muttered, running a hand through his unkempt hair. "How did we get here, Alex?" Alex sat down across from him, his face a mask of concern. "It's not your fault, Ryan," Alex said, his tone calm but firm. "The market's been volatile, and with all the negative press." Ryan slammed his fist on the desk, causing Alex to flinch. "Damn it. I should have seen this coming. I should have been more focused, more prepared." "You can't blame yourself," Alex insisted. "You were distracted. It happens to the best of us." Ryan's eyes flashed with anger. "You mean, Mia, is that what you're saying?" Alex held up his hands, placating. "I'm just saying that perhaps this is a wake-up call. The company needs you now more than ever. Maybe this all happened for a reason." As Alex left the office, Ryan sat back in his chair, his mind a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. He couldn't deny that Mia's deception had shaken him to his core, but the thought of their love being nothing more than a distraction felt wrong, almost sacrilegious. Across the city, Mia was facing her own personal hell. She had retreated to Sophia's small Brooklyn apartment, unable to face returning to the life she had built for herself in New York. The pain of losing Ryan was compounded by the shame of having her past exposed so publicly. "Mia, honey, you need to eat something," Sophia urged, setting a plate of toast beside the bed where Mia lay curled up. Mia shook her head, her once vibrant eyes now dull and lifeless. "I'm not hungry." Sophia sat on the edge of the bed, her face etched with worry. "I know you're hurting, but you can't keep going on like this. You need to take care of yourself." Mia sat up slowly, wincing as a wave of nausea washed over her. She had been feeling unwell for days, but had attributed it to stress and heartbreak. Now, as another bout of queasiness hit her, a terrible suspicion began to form in her mind. "Sophia," she whispered, her voice trembling, "I think I might be pregnant." Sophia's eyes widened in shock. "Oh, Mia," she breathed, pulling her friend into a tight embrace. The next morning found Mia sitting on the cold tile of Sophia's bathroom, staring in disbelief at the positive pregnancy test in her shaking hands. The reality of the situation came crashing down on her with brutal force. She was carrying Ryan's child, a child conceived in love but now shadowed by betrayal and scandal. As Mia grappled with this life-altering discovery across town, Alex was setting his own plans in motion. He had always seen himself as the true visionary behind Innovision, and now, With Ryan distracted and the company vulnerable, he saw his chance to seize control. In a sleek conference room high above the city, Alex met with a group of key investors, his manner confident and persuasive. "Gentlemen, I understand your concerns," he said, his voice smooth as silk. "The recent unfortunate events have certainly caused some instability. But I assure you, Innovision's future is brighter than ever." He clicked through a series of slides showcasing ambitious new projects and optimistic projections. "With your continued support and perhaps a slight restructuring of leadership, we can not only weather this storm but emerge stronger than ever." As the investors nodded approvingly, Alex allowed himself a small, triumphant smile. Everything was falling into place. Meanwhile, Mia found herself facing a series of impossible decisions. The pregnancy had forced her to confront the reality of her situation in a way she had been avoiding. She knew she needed to tell Ryan, but the thought of facing him after everything that had happened filled her with dread. "You have to tell him, Mia," Sophia insisted as they sat in a quiet cafe, far from the prying eyes of the paparazzi. "Whatever happened between you, he has a right to know about his child." Mia nodded, absently stirring her untouched tea. I know. But how? He won't answer my calls, and I can't exactly show up at his office." Sophia reached across the table, squeezing her friend's hand. "We'll figure it out. But first, you need to decide what you want. Are you ready to be a mother? Especially under these circumstances." The question hit Mia like a physical blow. Was she ready? The life she had imagined with Ryan now seemed like a distant dream. Could she raise a child alone, under the scrutiny of the public eye? As Mia wrestled with these questions, Ryan was facing a crisis of his own. The board of directors had called an emergency meeting, and as Ryan sat at the head of the long mahogany table, he could feel the weight of their judgment pressing down on him. "Mr. Matthews," the chairman began, his tone grave, "in light of recent events and the company's current financial situation, we feel it's necessary to discuss the future of Innovision's leadership." Ryan felt as though the air had been sucked from the room. "What exactly are you suggesting?" he managed to ask, his voice sounding distant to his own ears. "I believe it might be in the best interest of the company to bring in new leadership," the chairman continued. "Someone who can guide us through this difficult period without personal distractions." As the implications of the chairman's words sank in, Ryan felt a surge of anger and determination. This company was his life's work, his dream. He had sacrificed everything for it, including, he realized with a pang, his relationship with Mia. "With all due respect," Ryan said, his voice steady and resolute, "I founded this company. I've led it through challenges before, and I will do so again. My personal life has no bearing on my ability to lead Innovision to continued success." The board members exchanged glances, clearly taken aback by Ryan's forceful response. As the meeting continued, Ryan fought with every ounce of his being to retain control of his company, all too aware that he was fighting for his very future. As the days turned into weeks, both Ryan and Mia found themselves at crossroads, facing decisions that would shape the rest of their lives. Mia, after much soul-searching and long conversations with Sophia, decided to keep the baby. Despite the circumstances, the thought of the new life growing inside her filled her with a sense of purpose she had been lacking. She knew the road ahead would be difficult, but for the first time since the wedding, she felt a glimmer of hope for the future. Ryan, meanwhile, threw himself into the fight for his company with renewed vigor. He worked tirelessly, reaching out to contacts, brainstorming new innovations, and doing everything in his power to right the ship of Innovision. It was during this period of intense focus and determination that Alex made his move. He approached Ryan one evening, a sympathetic smile on his face. "Ryan, I've been thinking," he began, his tone casual. "With everything that's happened, maybe it would be good for the company if you took a step back. Just temporarily, of course. Let me handle things for a while. Give you a chance to clear your head." Ryan stared at his friend, a cold realization dawning. "You want to take over the company," he said, his voice flat. Alex's smile faltered for a moment before returning, broader than ever. "I'm just trying to help, Ryan. You've been through a lot. The company needs stable leadership right now." In that moment, Ryan saw Alex clearly for perhaps the first time. The ambition, the calculation, the barely concealed hunger for power. It had all been there all along, hidden behind a mask of friendship. "I appreciate your concern, Alex," Ryan said, his tone icy. "But I think I can manage my own company. And now, if you'll excuse me, I have work to do." As Alex left, barely concealing his frustration, Ryan felt a strange sense of clarity. He had lost Mia, had nearly lost his company, but he was damned if he was going to lose anything else. It was time to fight back. Across the city, Mia finally gathered the courage to reach out to Ryan. With shaking hands, she dialed his number, her heart pounding as she waited for him to answer. When Ryan saw Mia's name flash across his phone screen, a tumult of emotions washed over him. Anger, hurt, longing, and something else he couldn't quite name. After a moment's hesitation, he answered. "Mia," he said, his voice carefully neutral. "Ryan," Mia replied, her voice barely above a whisper. I need to see you. There's something important we need to discuss." As Ryan agreed to meet, neither of them could have imagined the chain of events their conversation would set in motion, events that would test their love, their integrity, and their very futures in ways they could never have anticipated. The autumn sun cast long shadows across Brooklyn Bridge Park as Ryan paced nervously, his eyes scanning the crowd for a familiar face. It had been weeks since Ryan had last seen Mia, since that fateful day when their perfect world had come crashing down around them. His heart raced with a mixture of anticipation and dread as he waited. Then he saw her. Mia approached slowly, her face pale and drawn, a far cry from the radiant bride she had been on their wedding day. As she drew closer, Ryan was struck by how fragile she looked, as if a strong breeze might blow her away. "Mia," he breathed, her name a mixture of greeting and question. "Ryan," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you for meeting me." They stood in awkward silence for a moment, the weight of their shared history and recent turmoil hanging heavily between them. Finally, Ryan gestured to a nearby bench overlooking the East River. "Should we sit?" Mia nodded, following him to the bench. As they sat, both were acutely aware of the careful distance they maintained between them. "You said you needed to talk to me," Ryan began, his voice carefully neutral. "What's this about, Mia?" Mia took a deep breath, her hands twisting nervously in her lap. "Ryan, there's something you need to know. Something important." Ryan tensed, bracing himself for another revelation, another secret that would shatter his world anew. "What is it?" Mia looked up, meeting his eyes for the first time. "I'm pregnant, Ryan. We're going to have a baby." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Ryan felt as if the ground had shifted beneath him, his mind reeling with the enormity of this news. "Pregnant," he repeated, his voice hoarse. Are you sure?" Mia nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "I found out a few weeks ago. I've been trying to find the courage to tell you ever since." Ryan stood abruptly, overwhelmed by the flood of emotions coursing through him. Joy, fear, anger, confusion. They all warred for dominance in his heart. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" he demanded, pacing in front of the bench. "Were you planning to keep this from me, too?" Mia flinched at the accusation in his tone. "No, Ryan, of course not. I didn't know how to tell you, after everything that happened." Her voice trailed off, and Ryan felt a pang of guilt at the pain in her eyes. He sat back down, closer this time, the instinct to comfort her warring with his lingering hurt and distrust. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "That wasn't fair. I know this must be difficult for you too." Mia nodded, wiping away a stray tear. "I understand why you're angry, Ryan. I betrayed your trust. But please believe me when I say that my love for you was never a lie. It still isn't." Ryan looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time since their wedding day. Despite everything, he could still see the woman he had fallen in love with, strong, passionate, vulnerable. The woman who had shown him that there was more to life than business success. "I want to believe you, Mia," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "But how can I ever trust you again?" Mia reached out hesitantly, placing her hand over his. "I know I hurt you, Ryan. I know I broke your trust. But I'm asking you for a chance. Not for me, but for our child. Can we try to find a way forward for the sake of our baby?" Ryan looked down at their joined hands, feeling the warmth of her touch. Despite everything, he couldn't deny the spark that still existed between them. And now, with a child on the way, everything had changed once again. "I don't know, Mia," he said honestly. It's a lot to process. I need time to think." Mia nodded, understanding in her eyes. "Of course. Take all the time you need. I needed you to know." As they sat there, the sun setting over the Manhattan skyline, both Ryan and Mia were lost in thought. The future that had once seemed so certain now stretched before them, full of unknowns. Days passed, and Ryan found himself unable to focus on anything but Mia's revelation. The thought of becoming a father both terrified and exhilarated him. He threw himself into research, reading every parenting book he could get his hands on, as if preparing for a crucial business presentation. One evening, as he sat in his office surrounded by baby books and pamphlets on prenatal care, Ryan had an epiphany. He had been approaching the situation like a business problem to be solved. But this was about family, about love. It was about the future he had once dreamed of with Mia. Before he could second-guess himself, Ryan grabbed his phone and dialed Mia's number. "Ryan," Mia answered, surprise evident in her voice. "Mia, can we meet? There's something I need to say to you." An hour later, they found themselves back at Brooklyn Bridge Park, the city lights twinkling across the water. Ryan took Mia's hands in his heart pounding. "Mia, I've been doing a lot of thinking," he began. "About us, about the baby, about our future. And I've realized something important." Mia held her breath, hardly daring to hope. "I love you," Ryan continued, his voice strong and sure. "Despite everything that's happened, despite the pain and the betrayal, I love you. And I want to try again for us, for our child." Tears spilled down Mia's cheeks as she listened to Ryan's words. "Oh, Ryan," she whispered, "I love you too, so much. But are you sure? Can you really forgive me?" Ryan cupped her face gently, wiping away her tears with his thumbs. "Forgiveness is a process, Mia. It won't happen overnight. But I'm willing to work on it, day by day if you are." Mia nodded emphatically. Yes, I am. I'll do whatever it takes to rebuild your trust, Ryan. I promise." As they embraced, both felt a sense of hope that had been missing for so long. They knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, that they had many challenges to face and wounds to heal. But in that moment, with the promise of new life growing within Mia, they felt ready to face whatever the future might hold together. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of doctor's appointments, late-night talks, and cautious steps toward rebuilding their relationship. Ryan attended every prenatal checkup, his heart swelling with love and protectiveness each time he heard their baby's heartbeat. Mia, for her part, was determined to prove herself worthy of Ryan's second chance. She opened up completely about her past, sharing painful memories and vulnerabilities she had kept hidden for years. Each confession, each moment of raw honesty, helped to slowly rebuild the trust between them. As they walked hand in hand through Central Park one crisp autumn afternoon, Ryan turned to Mia with a smile. "Move in with me," he said suddenly. Mia looked at him in surprise. "Are you sure? Isn't it too soon?" Ryan shook his head. "I want us to be a family, Mia. You, me, and our little one. I don't want to miss a single moment of this journey." Tears of joy welled in Mia's eyes as she nodded, unable to speak. As Ryan pulled her into a tender kiss, both felt a sense of rightness, of coming home. But even as they reveled in their rekindled love and the excitement of impending parenthood, challenges loomed on the horizon. Ryan's company was still in turmoil, with Alex's ambitions casting a long shadow over Innovision's future. And Mia's past, though no longer a secret, still had the power to affect their lives in ways they couldn't yet imagine. As they walked through the park, planning their future and dreaming of the family they would soon become, neither Ryan nor Mia could have anticipated the storms that were gathering. Their love, so recently tested and found strong, would soon face its greatest challenge yet. The bustling conference center in San Francisco hummed with excitement as tech industry leaders from around the world gathered for the annual Innovision Summit. Ryan adjusted his tie nervously, his eyes scanning the crowd for a familiar face. He wasn't here for the networking or the cutting-edge presentations. He was here to confront the man who had once been his greatest rival and was now, improbably, his future father-in-law. Eduardo Castellano stood near the refreshment table, engaged in animated conversation with a group of admiring young entrepreneurs. Even in his reduced circumstances, the former tech mogul commanded attention with his charismatic presence. As Ryan approached, he saw a flicker of recognition in Eduardo's eyes, followed quickly by wariness. "Mr. Castellano," Ryan said, extending his hand, "I believe we have some matters to discuss." Eduardo excused himself from his group and shook Ryan's hand firmly. "Mr. Matthews, I've been expecting this conversation for some time." They found a quiet corner away from the bustle of the conference. For a moment, both men were silent, the weight of their shared history hanging heavy between them. "I love your daughter, Mr. Castellano," Ryan began, his voice low but intense. "And I want to build a future with her. But for that to happen, we need to address the past." Eduardo nodded slowly. "I understand, and I owe you an apology, Ryan. The way my wife and I reacted at the wedding, it was shameful. We let our own bitterness and regret overshadow our daughter's happiness." Ryan was taken aback by the old man's candor. He had expected defensiveness, perhaps even hostility, but not this humble admission. "It's not just about the wedding," Ryan pressed on. "It's about everything that came before, the rivalry between our companies, the secrets, the lies. How can we move forward if we don't clear the air?" Eduardo sighed heavily, suddenly looking every one of his years. "You're right, of course. Truth is, Ryan, I've admired you for a long time. Even when Innovision was crushing Casteltech, I couldn't help but respect your innovation, your drive. You reminded me of myself when I was younger. Before everything fell apart," Ryan said softly. Eduardo nodded. "Before I let greed and pride blind me to what really mattered. I lost sight of why I started in this business in the first place. To create something meaningful, to make a difference. Instead, I became obsessed with winning, with being the biggest and the best. And in the end, I lost everything that truly mattered." As Eduardo spoke, Ryan felt a shift in his perception of the man. He saw not a fallen titan or a bitter rival, but a human being who had made mistakes and was living with the consequences. "Mr. Castellano," Ryan said, "I can't change the past. What happened between our companies? It was business. But what's happening now with Mia and our child? That's personal. That's family. I want us to find a way to move forward, for Mia's sake and for the sake of our baby." Eduardo's eyes widened at the mention of a baby. "Mia's pregnant? I'm going to be a grandfather." Ryan nodded, a small smile playing on his lips. "Yes, sir. And I want our child to know both sides of their family, to understand where they come from." Tears welled in Eduardo's eyes as he reached out to clasp Ryan's shoulder. "Thank you, Ryan, for giving us this chance. I promise you, we won't let Mia down again. Or you." The two men continued to talk, sharing stories and beginning to build a tentative bridge between their families. Neither was aware of the challenges that awaited them back in New York. Mia sat at the dining room table in Ryan's penthouse, surrounded by stacks of financial reports and company documents. She had thrown herself into helping Ryan save Innovision, determined to prove that her business acumen was more than just a remnant of her privileged past. As she pored over the latest quarterly projections, something caught her eye. A series of transactions that didn't quite add up, investments that seemed to lead nowhere. With growing suspicion, Mia began to dig deeper, her years of experience in the tech world guiding her instincts. Hours later, when Ryan returned from San Francisco, he found Mia still at the table, her hair disheveled and her eyes bright with a mixture of excitement and anger. "Ryan," she said without preamble, "I think I found something. Something big." As Mia laid out her findings, Ryan felt a cold fury building inside him. The evidence was circumstantial but damning. A trail of financial manipulation that led directly to Alex, his supposed friend and partner. "He's been siphoning funds," Ryan said, his voice tight with anger. "Setting up shell companies, making fake investments. No wonder the company's been struggling." Mia nodded grimly. "It's clever. He's covered his tracks well, but I've seen this kind of thing before. Back when my father's company was going under. I know what to look for." Ryan looked at Mia with a mixture of gratitude and admiration. "You're amazing, you know that? I don't know what I'd do without you." Mia smiled, but it quickly faded. "What are we going to do, Ryan? If we accuse Alex without concrete proof, he could turn this against us. Make it look like we're the ones trying to manipulate the company." Ryan paced the room, his mind racing. "We need to gather more evidence. And we need to do it quietly. If Alex's suspects were onto him, who knows what he might do?" Over the next few weeks, Ryan and Mia worked tirelessly to build their case against Alex. They combed through years of financial records, tracked down former employees who had left the company under mysterious circumstances, and pieced together a complex web of deceit that stretched back almost to Innovision's founding. As they worked, their bond grew stronger. The shared purpose, the late nights poring over documents, the thrill of uncovering each new piece of evidence. It all served to deepen their connection and heal the wounds of the past. One evening, as they sat surrounded by papers and empty takeout containers, Mia looked up at Ryan with a mischievous glint in her eye. "You know, in a weird way, I should thank Alex." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Thank him for trying to destroy my company?" Mia shook her head, laughing softly. "No, for giving us this chance to work together, to really get to know each other. I feel like I understand you now in a way I never did before." Ryan reached out to take her hand, his thumb tracing gentle circles on her palm. "I know what you mean. Seeing you like this, brilliant, determined, fighting for what's right, it reminds me of all the reasons I fell in love with you in the first place." As they leaned in for a kiss, both felt a renewed sense of purpose. They weren't just fighting for a company anymore. They were fighting for their future, for the family they were building together. But even as Ryan and Mia grew closer, the noose was tightening around Alex. Unaware that his schemes had been uncovered, he grew bolder, making moves to position himself as the savior of Innovision in the eyes of the board and the public. It all came to a head on a crisp autumn morning at Innovision's headquarters in Manhattan. Ryan had called an emergency board meeting, ostensibly to discuss the company's future direction. As board members and key investors filed into the conference room, the tension was palpable. Alex strode in confidently, shooting Ryan a sympathetic smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Ready to do what's best for the company?" he asked, his tone patronizing. Ryan met his gaze steadily. "Oh, I am. More than you know." As the meeting began, Ryan could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. Everything he had worked for, everything he and Mia had uncovered, it all came down to this. Taking a deep breath, Ryan stood to address the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, I have called this meeting because Innovision is indeed at a crossroads, but not for the reasons you might think." He nodded to Mia, who began distributing folders to each person in the room. "What you are receiving now is evidence of a systematic campaign of financial manipulation and fraud that has been ongoing within our company for years." Alex's face drained of color as he flipped through the contents of his folder. "What is this?" he demanded, his voice cracking. "Ryan, what are you doing?" But Ryan pressed on, his voice growing stronger with each word. Bank statements, shell company registrations, falsified investment reports. It's all there. And it all leads back to one person. All eyes in the room turned to Alex, who was now visibly sweating. "This is ridiculous," he sputtered. "I've done nothing but try to save this company while you've been distracted by personal drama." "Is that so?" Ryan countered. "Then perhaps you'd like to explain these offshore accounts in your name, or the series of shell companies that seem to exist only to funnel money out of Innovision?" As Ryan laid out the evidence, piece by damning piece, the room grew silent. Board members exchanged shocked glances, while investors muttered angrily among themselves. Finally, the chairman of the board spoke up. "Mr. Thompson, these are very serious allegations. Do you have anything to say in your defense?" Alex looked around the room wildly, like a cornered animal. "This is a setup," he shouted. "Ryan's trying to frame me because he knows he's lost control of the company. He's the one who's been running Innovision into the ground." But his protests fell on deaf ears. The evidence was too overwhelming, the trail of deceit too clear. Security escorted a raving Alex from the building. Ryan felt a mix of emotions: relief, sadness for the friendship he had lost, and a renewed determination to lead Innovision into a brighter future. Mia approached him as the room cleared out, slipping her hand into his. "You did it," she said softly. "We did it," Ryan corrected, pulling her close and pressing a kiss to her forehead. "We've got a long way to go to fix the damage Alex has done, but for the first time in a long time, I feel like we're on the right path." As they left the office together, both Ryan and Mia knew that this was just the beginning. They had weathered the storm together, but there would be more challenges ahead. In their personal lives, in the business world, and in the complex family dynamics they were navigating. But with their love stronger than ever and a baby on the way, they felt ready to face whatever the future might hold. Together, they stepped out into the bustling New York street, ready to write the next chapter of their story. Dear listeners, in the story of Ryan and Mia, we witness a journey that mirrors the complexities of our own lives. Their tale reminds us that love, in its purest form, is not just about the joyous moments, but about weathering the storms that life inevitably brings. We've seen how secrets and lies can tear apart even the strongest bonds. Mia's deception and Ryan's initial inability to forgive serve as a stark reminder of how our past can haunt us and how the fear of vulnerability can lead us to hurt those we love most. But their story doesn't end there, and neither should ours. In Ryan's eventual forgiveness and Mia's commitment to rebuild trust, we find a powerful message. It's never too late for redemption. We all make mistakes. We all have parts of ourselves we're ashamed of. But it's not these mistakes that define us. It's how we choose to grow from them. The journey of Ryan and Mia teaches us that true love requires courage. The courage to be vulnerable, to face our fears, and to fight for what matters most. It's about seeing the best in each other, even when circumstances show us the worst. Their story also highlights the importance of honesty and communication. How many of us have held back parts of ourselves, fearing rejection or judgment? Mia's journey shows us that embracing our whole truth, no matter how painful, is the only way to achieve genuine connection and love. In the face of betrayal, not just from Mia but also from his trusted friend Alex, Ryan demonstrates the strength that comes from forgiveness. It's a reminder that holding on to anger and resentment only hurts ourselves. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about choosing to love despite the pain. The transformation of Ryan and Mia's relationship, from a fairy tale romance to a deep, tested bond, reflects the reality of lasting love. It's not about perfect moments, but about choosing each other every day, especially when it's difficult. As they face the challenges of saving Ryan's company and preparing for parenthood, we see the power of partnership. In supporting each other's dreams and facing obstacles together, they show us what it means to be truly united. Ultimately, this story is about second chances. In life, we rarely get everything right the first time, but if we have the courage to admit our mistakes, the strength to forgive, and the determination to do better, we can transform our lives and our relationships. So, dear listeners, let this story be a mirror to your own life. Where do you need to forgive? Where do you need to be more honest? What relationships in your life deserve a second chance? Remember, it's never too late to rewrite your own story. To choose love over fear, honesty over comfort, and growth over stagnation. In the end, like Ryan and Mia, we all have the power to turn our greatest challenges into our most profound love stories. All it takes is the courage to open our hearts, the strength to face our truths, and the faith to believe in the transformative power of love. Dear friends, we hope Ryan and Mia's story has touched your heart as much as it has touched ours. Every story, like every relationship, is a journey of discovery, and we'd love to hear about yours. Did a particular moment in their tale resonate with you? Perhaps you found yourself nodding along, seeing echoes of your own experiences in their struggles and triumphs. Or maybe you have a different perspective on how Ryan and Mia handled their challenges. Whatever your thoughts, we'd be thrilled to hear them. If you enjoyed this story and found value in its message, why not take a moment to leave a comment below? Share your favorite part or tell us how it made you feel. Your insights not only mean the world to us, but also enrich the experience for other listeners. And if there were aspects of the story you didn't quite agree with, we'd love to hear about that too. Perhaps you have ideas on how Ryan or Mia could have handled things differently. Or maybe you have your own story of love and redemption to share. Our community thrives on diverse perspectives, and your voice is an important part of that tapestry. For those of you who are new here and enjoyed this journey with Ryan and Mia, consider subscribing to our channel. By doing so, you're not just signing up for more stories. You're becoming part of a community that celebrates the complexities of love and life. Your support enables us to continue crafting these tales and bringing them to life for listeners like you. Remember, every comment, every subscription is a nod of encouragement to our team. It's what fuels our passion and helps us grow. So if you found value in Ryan and Mia's story, why not take a moment to show your support? Thank you for being part of this journey with us. We can't wait to hear your thoughts and to bring you more stories that inspire, challenge, and touch the heart. Until next time, keep believing in the power of love and second chances.